So, some news in the indie game scene involving a very popular game that was hit a few years back with a lot of Let's Players giving it a lot of attention. I am, of course, referring to Yandere Dev and Yandere Simulator.
Now, it's my problem.
Of course, you probably already saw the thumbnail and title, so... Now, when it comes to this situation, there's been a lot of criticism being fired at Yandere Dev, with some legit criticism, and others that are...
Like, he has to make the game, but he also has to stream 3 hours a day and get thousands of dollars in donations. Because that's the life of a full-time game developer, is playing video games for money on the internet.
This is no time to start speaking Australian, Jim!
Yeah. Let's move on then.
Seriously, Arjun, what is your deal with making it sound like people can't do multiple things during the day? Yeah, it's not like I can't do chores around the house, go to my job, draw, work on my own projects, and do a video like this during the course of a day. One criticism that I do believe completely legit is involving copyright strikes against Asman, a fan of Yandere Simulator. Although, I bet it's more of a former fan at this point, for a joke video with some legit criticism in it. Or how Yandere Dev can't take criticism and how his programming skills aren't the greatest, as case in one point, the number of bugs that keep appearing.
The programming is quite sloppy, and the way that it has been written will actually prevent the game from actually progressing properly. You know, like a house needs a good solid foundation and you build on top of that. Basically, the foundation is shaky, and whenever he adds a new thing, it causes a whole bunch of shitty bugs. And these bugs, they are actually the fuel of a lot of Yandere Simulator videos on YouTube. You know, there's other big YouTubers that do bug videos. They make, show funny glitches and bugs, and I do that as well. It's turned Yandere Simulator into a bit of a joke. There is an extreme amount of bugs, and I've noticed it, and a lot of you guys have probably noticed it. Whenever a new feature is added, just so many bugs appear. It's just like you can't actually, there's not one single build where there's no bugs. Basically, he fixes a bug, but it doesn't get fixed properly, and another bug comes, or it just screws something else up. So basically, from what I've read...
Now personally, when it comes to the bugs, and when it comes to trying to get the game out, I'm of two minds when it comes to the development. Because I've seen the coding for the game, and as Asman has already stated in this video,
there is an extreme amount of bugs.
The fact that each build of the game that comes out has bugs on top of bugs on top of bugs is an issue that stems back to the coding of the game. And initially it looked like Yandere Dev would have solved this issue with partnering with TinyBuild. However, unfortunately, as a lot of people have found out as of late, Yandere Dev has actually cut ties with TinyBuild last December.
Brilliant! Brilliant!
But then we get to Yandere Dev's video on the entire subject, which I do have some words I want to say about.
Every time you add a new feature, it will affect other features, create new bugs, increase the amount of time you need to spend waiting for the code to compile, increase the loading times of the game, etc. Something that was simple and easy to work on at the beginning can eventually become a nightmare that you are constantly wrestling with.
Once again, I have to admit that when it comes to this sort of stuff, it's sort of a crossroads. It's a bit of a crossroads, because while this is true from what I've seen, Yandere Dev has been putting a lot of aspects and gimmicks into his various builds, and it comes up with more and more time goes on. But frankly, I think while it's good to have variety in the game, that variety shouldn't extend out too much. Overextension and ambition is a problem here, and there should be some barriers on what needs to be put in the game's design initially. If you want more features added, then the possibility of DLC or updated builds of the game is possible after the completed game. This is an option. I feel one of the biggest issues is that Yandere Dev is being too ambitious as to what he wants to put in the game to actually finish it, and that's kind of the problem here. Although, what I find to be dumb in his video is this.
If a group of weird people on the internet decide that they feel completely justified in treating you like garbage, and you're subjected to abusive treatment on a daily basis for multiple years, you'll become depressed, which will affect your productivity, which will cause people to call you lazy or a scam artist, which will cause you to receive even more abuse, which will cause you to become even more depressed and less productive.
You know what this reminds me of?
But the overwhelming negativity and ridicule that video got was just crushing. It sucked, man. And the hate that video received in the first week. I mean, this was a video where I specifically talk about accepting others and saying no to hating other groups of people, and it got hate. You gotta love the internet sometimes, man.
Seriously, it's the internet. I hate to be that one guy, but this place is pretty much a cesspool when it comes to people's opinions and words. They can say whatever they want with little to no repercussion. But by that same token, you can easily ignore their words. And that's something that you need to do, Yandere Dev. I say this because time and time again, we've seen that if you show that something does indeed affect you, you're going to invite more people to jab at you in that same way because you've shown your blood, and that it does affect you. It's harsh to say, I know, but that's the way it is. And the fact that he's actually made a video and a point in it, this will only get more and more people to do this since it's shown that it does bug you.
Your comment sections will be dominated by people who want to hurl insults at you and spew ridiculous misinformation that isn't anywhere close to being true.
You do realize that the comment system has filters for words and users, right? You can easily just type in certain keywords or users and they'll be marked either as spam or they won't show up in your comment section. Especially if what you say is true, then these people are only there to look for a fight and to start fires, so they wouldn't be worth their time other than to block them. I mean, that's what those features are for. Now, there's a lot more I could say about his entire video, and on the whole situation, but the fact of the matter is there are a ton of videos out there that have been going up and talking about the whole situation, talking about the game itself, and talking about Yandere Dev's past. And I actually want to talk about a couple of them, and one of them being the rise and fall of Yandere Dev. Now, it's a 2-hour long video, and while there's a lot of legitimate points in it, like how the coding of the game is a mess, as well as the whole copyrights against Asman, even showing clips and evidence, the video itself isn't without its own criticism. Like, for example, how it tries to be the poor man's version of Mr. Medicare, with the guy trying a bit too hard to joke around and bringing up the past of Yandere Dev. For that, I can understand somewhat to give a look into the mindset of the developer. However, to me it comes off as looking way too hard into the past and dredging up information that's not really relevant to the game. Then there's also a point where they get onto Yandere Dev for taking a meme to using it to promote his game. Said meme had some questionable origins from a doshinji and refers to Yandere Dev as a lolicon. Okay, he doesn't outright say it, but he does say it looks bad. I don't want to repeat exactly what he said here, so I'll link a video with a timestamp in the description if you want to see it. But my point is, do you not know what a meme is? There are moments that are taken out of the original context and given a different context. Half the time, people don't know where the meme came from. We live in an age of the information superhighway. Hell, I got people asking me where this is from. And that's probably one of the most famous JoJo memes in existence. And I wouldn't have a problem with this, except right afterwards, he says that he's just saying. And earlier, he kept on ragging on Yandere Dev for being a bit creepy at large assets on women. You do realize that lolicons do have a tendency to not fancy mature traits of women, right? For crying out loud, you play a clip of Yandere Dev saying that Samus Aran is his waifu. So which is it? This whole meme thing, you know what it reminds me of? That one BBC News video that questioned if it was alright to use certain kinds of emojis and GIFs that are based off of black people, and that if you use them you were—
Oh no, somebody's going to get an email.
I also want to talk about the video that I was originally going to cover by the guy named Arjun. Over an hour-long video that was basically a rambling reaction video. And apparently people love the hell out of it, even though it was probably one of the worst videos I've ever seen in my time on the internet. If not for the fact that his editing or lack of editing bugged the hell out of me, or his video was full of dumb points. Here, have a sample of the points that I think were strong, that I made.
Go back about a year, because that was about the last time. The future of Yandere simulated character models, progress reports. I'm trying to think, where was it that I had kind of left off when I was doing my video? I think it was back quite a while. So, a warning to all game developers in defense of Twitch. Response from Twitch. Does Yandere Dev really need a small town? What?
And here, folks, we see Arjun's inexperience with the game. And guess what? There was a town portion in the game.
Oh, I haven't gone in town in a while. I'll go dance and prance around with my bike, the magical bike that can go zooming through the... Oh, God, no! Oh, lordy. Oh boy.
And this was 2 years ago. This shows how little research Argent has done for the game, and you'll see later in this video he is talking about how functions that aren't in the game and will never come out when he clearly doesn't know about the game and the various builds that it's been going through. And the fact that the update videos talk about the game's new features that were added.
Anyone, no matter what their personality is, can be driven to commit murder under the right circumstances. The trick is figuring out your rival's weakness and then orchestrating the events that would result in a murder.
They have nowhere, like, he's nowhere near this. This is another problem. He just sets all these pie-in-the-sky ideas. Like, most people are probably thinking this and saying, this sounds like a good idea, but he's not going to do it.
It's almost showtime, girl. Walk your way over here like the zombie slave you are. Showtime. Boom! Yep, see, he's backing away.
Maybe you should, I don't know what you're talking about. I should point out that while this isn't the exact same thing, this is basically getting other characters to kill for you, and you do it in various ways. So saying that Yandere Dev isn't anywhere close to implementing this in the main game is, well, wrong. It goes to prove that Argent is still not knowing what he talks about.
And then there's some other random woman. Who's she? Is she like the other Yandere?
That's Osoro Shitesu, and I'm pretty sure I just butchered that name, but she's a rival that Yandere Dev announced in his October update preview. And he even announced that she'd be a rival on his Twitter feed. You know, for someone who claims that Yandere Dev isn't doing stuff with his game, you really don't know a lot about the game's updates. And I was able to figure this out with a simple Google search.
It doesn't really matter what this guard thinks of the protagonist. His opinion is irrelevant. If the protagonist punches him in the face, he'll be angry. But his opinion has no effect on the rest of the game. As soon as the player moves on to the next area, that guard no longer exists. He's completely removed from the game's
that's
menu,
not true at
along
all.
with his opinion
Lots of
the
games, I
player.
can't think of them, but
If
lots of
Agent
games
47
have
punches
this.
a man in Paris,
Lots of games do this, but I won't say what ones. Meanwhile, Yandere Dev is giving a specific example in Metal Gear Solid, in which that guard doesn't affect the rest of the game. You'd know this if you actually played said game.
it has no effect whatsoever on his next mission in Japan. That man no longer exists.
No, lots of games have like a reputation meter or something, or people get afraid of you. I don't know.
And neither
At this point, we're talking about Hitman specifically, and no, there isn't anything like that in Hitman. Also, what games are you talking about? You're the one assuming that these games exist, so it falls on you to prove that they do. Also, considering that how Hitman was the inspiration for Yandere Simulator, no duh Yandere Dev would bring it up as an example for what he's learned and what he wants to put into the game. Now, the only reason I didn't do a full-on commentary on that is because the video was too much of a mess and it'd be way too much of a headache for me to try to actually edit that. Seriously, it'd probably be an hour-long video as well, and I really don't want to do that. But really, when it comes to all these sorts of videos, there are videos that do a good job of talking about his criticism. There are those that do have valid information, but come off as a wannabe Mr. Metaker, and at the same time are making statements that don't really add to their arguments. And then those who don't know what the full situation is and act like they do know what's going on. So essentially, the usual spiel on YouTube. This isn't me saying that you can't criticize Yandere Dev. I did in this very video, and there are valid criticism to be made about the guy. But for every valid criticism, you'll get those who just jump on the bandwagon. And you can say that I'm doing the same, but then again, I'm not the guy who's making an hour-long video who leaves in non-necessary information on things that don't have anything to do with anything actually saying. What?
I believe that honesty and knowing as many facts as possible, or as many sides of the argument as possible, is the best way to actually come up with your own rational, thought-out opinions.
And I'm sorry this video is short, but I had a full-on script talking about a bigger video, as I already alluded to, but the script felt really off to me and I decided to scrap a lot of it since the video would have devolved into "No You." But whatever, I'll have a better video soon and it talks about something different. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below what you think of the whole Yandere situation. I'm Kamen, and remember to examine your fandom.